Hmm. Well, I would have to say the best thing about being a mom is watching your child develop and grow. And the rewarding thing about that is when you know, as a mother or even as a parent in general, that you've done the best that you can to raise your child and to see them excuse me, develop and grow.
Okay, so that's the best thing, or
one of the best things. And then of course the next best thing excuse me, is after you watch your child develop and grow, seeing them accomplish things in their life. So that's very rewarding to me as a mother and as a parent.
Okay, so what's something that's difficult?
Well,
most difficult?
Well, I would say the most difficult thing about being a mother, in my case, or for me, was raising a child primarily as a single mother. And I believe that, lots of other women, if you take 9 out of 10 women, probably 9 out of 10 women were single parents. So
9 out of 10?
Maybe.
That's a high number.
It is a high number.
You think 9 out of 10 women, mothers, are single mothers?
Might be. I mean, I don't know the statistics to be true, but okay, 8 out of 10 women.
Okay.
But there are a lot of single mothers out there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say that was the most difficult, challenging thing.
Especially Black mothers.
Correct.
Being a mom is amazing. The best thing I've probably ever done in my life type amazing. I think the best thing about being a mom is knowing that I can love something more than I love myself. Which is
Yeah, I feel the same way.
Yeah, well, it took a while for me to learn how to love myself, the way I love myself. And then here comes this little baby. It's oh, I love you more than anything else.
Yeah.
It's a whole nother
Yeah. A whole nother feeling.
Yeah.
I feel the same way. It's definitely frustrating though. You have that, and then you have the frustration part. And it's of course the love outweighs the frustration, but you just got those times, even when they are baby, newborns. It's gonna be like that in forever, really, because you have that newborn stage.
You're always worried about them.
You always worry about them, no matter if they a baby, they get out your house. But it's definitely a beautiful thing, though. It's like no other feeling like it.
What has been the most difficult so far, or challenging?
Trying to keep my baby alive. I know it sounds crazy, but he's kids are wild.
Crazy.
They try to hit the TV. You're always wait, no, help, please stop.
And you don't realize it.
It's
you don't realize how much dangerous stuff you have in your house until you have a little one that's just running.
And it
rampant.
doesn't matter how much you baby proof. It's the hardest thing is just no, they do anything. No, don't get on the couch, you'll fall. Wait, slow down, you'll fall. No, they'll fall on you. It's
So just chasing them around and making sure.
Yeah, just making sure they're safe.
For me,
It's
well, it's that too, of course. But I'm gonna just share my experience when Jasmine was first born. I believe she was 2 weeks old, and she was a greedy gut. She was a nice sized baby, but she was hungry. She used to want to drink just milk all the time, and I didn't want her to get sick. It was this one night, James wasn't with me. That's her father. James wasn't with me, and you remember this, Faye, when we was out in the front, and she was crying all night. She was just crying. I'm trying to rock her to sleep, and I did not know what was wrong with her because I had just gave her a bottle, and when they're newborn, they don't drink that much. So I had gave her 4 ounces. That's a lot for a newborn baby, and I was just like, what is wrong with her? She could not go to sleep. She couldn't go to sleep. And the thing about it is you don't know what's wrong, especially when they can't talk.
Yeah, right.
So I didn't know what was wrong with her. And she just wanted her milk. She had been crying for like 5 hours.
Yeah.
It was a long time she was crying. And when I found out she was hungry, because my mom finally came upstairs and she gave her a bottle and she was like, this baby is hungry, and I cried. Because you don't know. That's my difficult part, because you don't know what's wrong with them. Even now, she can't talk. She's 1. You can't really understand what's wrong with them. So that's my difficult. It's difficult because they can't speak.
Yeah, that was the day we learned that Jasmine got down on the food.
Oh man, she just so greedy.
We thought she had a tummy ache. Like she was like, oh,
right. I didn't know what was wrong with her.
That's a good question. Well, I struggled with infertility for a while before I was able to actually get pregnant. And so to become a mother was truly a miracle for me. And I haven't forgotten that struggle was there for me. And so I'm appreciative of the fact that I have children.
Right.
I have 3 children. My oldest son is about to turn 30. Youngest son is about to turn 28. And then my daughter is about to turn 24. So I love being a mother. That is something that I had always wanted to be. And I felt like whatever sacrifices that I made for my kids, they were well worth it. Because they turned out to be great people.
Right.
And that's the main thing. The best thing about being a mother for me is that my kids did turn out so well. I like them. They're good people.
That's good.
Yeah. And I feel like they are a blessing to the world.
Okay, yeah.
They're a blessing to our family, but they're also a blessing to the world because they do good things, and they're compassionate people. And so I think that's the best thing, just to see the kind of adults that they grew into.
Okay, thank you. So what is the most challenging part about being a mother then?
Well, I think it goes in seasons. So, when they were little, the challenge was sometimes just taking a shower.
Right. Yeah.
When they were teenagers, the challenge was, are they picking the right friends?
Right.
Or even adding all of their activities to my schedule because I would have to take them places.
Right.
Now that they are adults, the challenge is to treat them as adults and not treat them as children.
Right.
So I think those have been my main challenges.
It's such a joy, especially when you have beautiful kids. I don't mean physical, I mean the heart. And just to watch them grow. I mean, I can still remember when Marlo was just a little girl, and I think about her little hands, and I think about her with her little white socks on and her little dresses, and to see them grow to become mature adults is the most wonderful feeling in the world. And just to realize that you did it. That's the beauty of it. I mean, you just feel so much joy in all the accomplishments. And there's ups and downs, but that's the best part about motherhood. It's just seeing your kids grow to be wonderful, productive human beings. That's the beauty. Wow. Well, the most challenging part is when you have more than one child. You have to do the personalities.
Okay, yeah.
What works for one child doesn't work for the other one. So that's very challenging, and you have to figure out even when it comes to disciplining activities, each kid is different. So that's the most challenging, trying to handle each personality, because they're all different. So you can't raise them the same. So as a mother, you have to come up with what works for this one, what works for that one.
Right. Okay.
24.
My oldest son is about to turn 30. Youngest son is about to turn 28. And then my daughter is about to turn 24.
I have one kid. It's my son. His name is Zion, and he's 2 years old.
Okay. Bree.
I have one daughter named Jasmine Louise. She's 1.
But how many children do you have?
3. 2 boys and a girl.
Okay, and my mom is the girl, right?
Yes, your mom is the girl.
And she's the oldest.
Well, I have to say I really didn't have, like, so to speak, any preconceived notions about the pregnancy. So from the time you find out that you're pregnant to 9 months. I did have preconceived notions about delivery. So for me, up until I was about 6 or 6.5 months pregnant, it was fine.
You said up till that point?
Up until that point. It was fine. I didn't have morning sickness. I never threw up. I heard women talk about heartburn. I never experienced that before. When I started having difficulties, I think I was about 6.5 months to my recollection. And I started to have Braxton Hicks contractions prematurely. And so those sent me to the hospital with the little baby several times in the middle of the night that I can recall. And then by the time I was like 7.5 months, I was just ready to get it over with. So I was excited for the fact that I was having a baby girl. I was excited when I first started feeling movement of the baby. That was always exciting. I can't say that I was frightened. I think the only thing I was frightened about was was going into labor.
So the labor part or the birth part?
Well, labor, that was intense, 28 hours.
Well, you said you were nervous or apprehensive about going into labor or about actually the birthing process?
I wouldn't say the birthing process. I would just say the labor.
Okay.
The intensity and, not knowing what to expect, and am I going to be in a lot of pain or am I going to be in a little pain? And lo and behold, I just had a difficult birth, difficult labor, difficult birth.
Okay. Yeah, so in terms of the pregnancy, you had complications or you didn't have complications?
I didn't have complications. The only those, I wouldn't consider Braxton Hicks contractions complications because those are typical. Those are normal. But up until then, pregnancy was great. It was okay. It wasn't bad. It wasn't nothing bad about it because I didn't show till late.
What do you mean late?
I didn't show, maybe I would say about 4.5 months is when I started showing. And then about 6 months, you could really tell I was pregnant and, it wasn't bad.
As far as pregnancy goes, I'm going to be honest with you. Like, I thought it was this, like, beautiful thing where it's like, oh, I'm so wonderful, I'm glowing, I'm just so happy and bonding with my baby. But it was nothing like that. It was like, ow, everything hurts in my back and my belly's moving and it's like aliens in there. It was just like really, it was the weirdest thing. Like, we have moments when it'd be beautiful, but then I'll be like on my way to work or like doing anything and it'd be like just like, Bill, this is an awkward moment for you to be up. What you doing? Like, it'd just be like and it's always in pain.
Yeah.
And you can't take anything because you're pregnant, and what you can take doesn't do anything because you're pregnant. It's like,
Yeah.
So when you say pain, like what kind of pain?
Like a lot of cramping, really fatigue, like you're real achy.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a really, I don't know if it's because your body's not used to all that weight or like the baby's just sucking life out of you. But I don't know what's happening, but it's just like you just want to go to sleep all day. Now sleep is the best.
Oh yeah.
Like when you can get to sleep,
when you can
get to sleep, man, you sleep like you're never gonna sleep like that again. Because then the baby's there. It's like you're watching the baby sleep.
Right.
Like sleep was amazing. The sleep and like the moments when I would play music and he would just getting down. Like those were the best moments when we'd be reading and he'd be like, oh, I like this book. Like, how do you know you like this book?
Yeah.
Like, those would be the best moments, and eating tacos.
Yeah.
Well, when I was pregnant, I'm like, I'm not getting pregnant no more. Screw this. I'm not getting pregnant no more. It's my first and last baby. I'm not doing it. But after, looking back on the memories and stuff, it's just like, I want to feel that again. So Jasmine's not gonna be my last baby.
Yeah, I honestly feel the same way. Like,
cause she bad with it. I'm not having no more kids.
I am bad with it. And then like 5 minutes later, I'd be like, I can't wait to have
I'll be all like,
I
which
got
one
names.
is it?
Yeah.
Like, I'm like
which
the worst. I'm the worst with it. Like I be having these moments where like I have dreams about when I was pregnant and like stuff that was going on. Like Zion, he used to keep his little foot up all the time, so it just used to like just kind of poke out. I used to tickle.
You used to tickle it?
Yeah, I used to like tickle my belly, but his foot like.
So moments like that.
Yeah, like little stuff like, oh, it's your little foot, like.
So did either of y'all have any complications during the pregnancy? No.
No, well, I thought it was a complication, but it wasn't. I had this little, it felt like a little bag, like right at the bottom of my stomach. This was like further down. I think it was like my 3rd trimester. It was like, it felt like this little fluid bag, and I didn't know what it was. So I went to the ER like twice, and I was trying to figure out what this bag was. And they was just like, no, it's just a part of the pregnancy. I didn't believe that. I just knew it was something wrong. Like, what is this thing? I thought it was a complication, but it wasn't.
You said it was a bag? Like a
yeah,
fluid?
it felt like a little, like, like, just say like you fill up,
like a water balloon.
Like a water balloon, and you don't fill it up all the way. It's like that real squishy. That's what I felt at the bottom of my stomach. And I didn't know what it was. I didn't know if it was fat or fluid from the, what's that fluid called in your belly?
The amniotic fluid?
Yes. Yeah. I didn't know what it was.
And so you said they didn't tell you, they just said, oh, it's nothing.
Yeah, they just said it was a part of the pregnancy. Yeah, but no complications.
Were you satisfied with that answer?
No.
Did you go to like, well, we'll get into that, but Faye, did you have any complications?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah, I did. I don't even remember what's the name of it. It's so long ago. I got diagnosed with like some random like pregnancy disease. I don't really remember what it was called. But basically they told me that with it, they have to be really careful because if the baby gets exposed to anything, then he could come out disabled or he could have learning disabilities or anything like that. Like, it's just like, what do you mean my baby? And like, oh my gosh, it was the worst. I used to like just cry, like at that moment, like sparked a strong depression. Like, as soon as that happened, it was like, my life is like spiraling out of control. I'm like, I was pregnant and emotional. Like, why would you tell me that? Like,
so did they say what it was? Or?
They did, but I cannot remember the name of it. It was such a long, like, doctor word that I just like. I remember I Googled it like crazy. I'm like, looking it all up. It was just like something that some women develop while they're pregnant that can like seriously affect the baby, like negatively. Like if pregnancy doesn't go well, it could like really affect the baby. Like,
So did they give you like any information on it, or
they
like what to do? Or?
They didn't really tell me I could do anything, but just like wait it out.
Well, we know that wasn't true because he's just as sharp as a. I don't even know. He's sharp.
Well, that when they told me that you know something like that could happen, that's when I start like looking up ways to make my baby smart while he's in the stomach. So like classical music, jazz. I'm listening to everything. I'm reading every night. Like the longest books I can find that's for kids. Like I'm just like reading, like trying to get reactions. I'm like, no, this baby's gonna come out healthy. Like I don't care what this doctor says. I'm praying. Like I'm like, ugh. Jesus, help me.
Yeah.
Help me, Jesus.
Yeah.
I was in labor for about 3 days, active labor, like contractions and all. Like I was in labor for about 3 days, and I'm like pushing babies like right there, all this stuff. Like they're coming back and forth. Like okay, we're gonna try again, like a few hours, whatever. So we get to the very end of like my 3rd day, and my kidneys start to fail because he's laying on them. And if I move, then I cut off the oxygen to the baby. So they're like, okay, let's try to get this baby out. Let's push. Then his head gets stuck behind my pelvic bone. So from that point, I had to have an emergency C-section because one of us was going to get lost. Me or the baby.
Yeah.
So I had to get an epidural for the emergency C-section.
Right.
And I cried like a baby. Ooh, I was crying. I was like, boo. Like I was just like crying. Like this is so terrible. First of all, I didn't want to have my baby like this. Second of all, what do you mean one of us won't make it if I don't do this? So they bring me into the room or whatever to have my C-section. And I'm like my body is like going into shock because I'm just like freaking out, hyperventilating. And I just start like puking. Like I'm like puking nonstop. So they're like, you know, I'm all numb from the waist down. Like I can't feel anything they're doing, but I'm like so in shock that this is happening.
Those drugs.
Yeah, like I'm like I can't feel anything, but I'm so in shock. Like I'm still in shock from them telling me what the situation was. Like I'm still in shock, so I'm just like shaking and like puking and I'm freezing. I'm like telling Chris like, okay, this ain't going right. So the nurse is like, you know, administering me my medications or whatever, like giving me stuff for nausea. He's like, you know, I need you to stay awake and talk to me the whole time. And Chris is just in there like, you know, he's like in daddy shock.
Yeah.
So all I can feel is Zion fighting. Like I don't think he wanted to come out. I don't know what was happening, but all I can feel is him like fighting.
Zion
like
was
he was
chilling.
he was like fighting like crazy. Like all I can feel is like him. Like, I can't feel them cutting me or anything. I just feel like him moving like crazy. I'm like, what is going on? Something's wrong with the baby. He's moving like crazy. They're like, no, everything's fine. He doesn't want to come out. He's just fighting. It's okay. So his little fight gave me strength. Like, okay, well, maybe I need to fight too. So I'm like sitting there like trying to pull through. I stopped throwing up. I'm like, okay, get my head in the game. I'm trying to stay focused and like stay awake. I'm like, pull through this or you're gonna die. Like that's what the situation is. Like you are like this close to losing your life. Like it's just slipping away. Like I could just feel myself like leaving the room. I'm like, okay, no, get it together. So they pull him out and I don't even hear him crying. He's asleep. Like he's not asleep. He's asleep. Like he fell asleep from fighting. Like they pull him out and I'm like, where's the baby? Right. They're like, no, he's okay. He's just sleeping. Like, you know, he's breathing. Everything's fine. So I'm like freaking out. Like, where's the baby? What's going on? So everything's fine. He's just like sleeping. So they wake him up and he's not crying. He's just like chilling. Yeah, like he's just looking around. Like they tried to like get him to yell. He's just like. So they bring him in the little back room. They ask Chris to cut the umbilical cord. He was nervous. Like, you better cut off baby's umbilical cord. So he runs in there and cuts it. And they're like, do you want to see the baby? And Zion comes out. And, like, I can hear him crying as Chris is like in there looking at him. Like, now I can hear him. I'm like, okay, the baby's okay. Brings the baby. And all I remember is his little, precious little angel face side-eyeing me with the strongest shade I've ever seen. Like, now you know I was ready to come out, Mom. Like, he was just looking at me like he was looking so shady. Like, and that is my birthing experience. I didn't get to touch him or anything. I guess because I was full of puke. Like, I don't know what happened.
Yeah, how long did it take you to go see him?
I didn't see my baby for like 24 hours.
Yeah,
why didn't they let you see him, or why?
I had to go through a bunch of like stuff because, mind you, my kidneys were failing. Right. So I had to, first of all, I had to get my blood back. So they had me in this little room. I had to come back from my hypothermia. So I was in there like shaking, like borderline seizing. Right. They had to make sure I was stable enough, like not nauseous anymore. Then they had to get my kidneys back because like it was just terrible. It's like, so I didn't see him for a long time. Like, Chris was with him. Like, everybody saw the baby but me. And then I had to wait until like I got the okay for the doctors to move around so then they could make sure that I was fine before I could go see the baby. Right. Whatever the pregnancy disease they told me about was like he didn't get affected at all. The only thing he had was bilirubin.
Okay, yeah.
So bilirubin and jaundice.
Okay.
So he was okay. He had to stay at the hospital for a couple days, but we both lived to tell the story.
Right.
It's a terrible story, though.
Yeah.
I think the fact that I did struggle with the infertility for a little while really helped me to get a different perspective about my pregnancy because I really wanted to enjoy it. Right. And yet there were those times of fear. You know, if something happened, I might have had some spotting. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose a baby. Or just, you know, the normal fear that you might have of delivering a child. Am I up for this? And am I going to be a good mom? But I think that the fact that when I was, you know, going to doctors and doing all that stuff, and I didn't do the fertility treatments. Okay. That was one decision that my husband and I made, that we just weren't going to go there. It was just going to all be on God to make it happen. And I think having that attitude, as well as having friends that supported me through that time of infertility, I kept a journal during my pregnancy. Even before I got pregnant, I was looking up scriptures about being a mother, you know, my body being healed and all of that. So I think that my pregnancy was really good. All three of them were good. I didn't deal with morning sickness. I never felt like, you know, at week 36, oh my gosh, is this ever going to end? Right. I never felt like that.
Okay, that's good.
So I think my attitude, again, was really colored by the infertility season that I went through, and it just made me appreciate things more when I did finally get pregnant. You know, they did some tests, and I had fibroids.
Oh, okay.
But they didn't know if that was really the reason. Right. So they just said that it was an unknown factor. That was the diagnosis. You know, I didn't have the polycystic disease or, you know, any of those more common things that a lot of women deal with. So I don't know why it was. I did have a doctor to tell me that this was in... a gynecologist. They told me he didn't think that I would ever have kids.
Because of the fibroids?
Well, I guess just from whatever tests that they had run, because he had sent me to a fertility specialist. And that specialist had recommended a laparoscopic procedure. And that was actually when we made the decision. No, we're not going to start going through all of this and, doing the shots.
Right.
So I didn't even have that procedure done.
Right.
You want me to be honest?
Yes.
I never had an enjoyable pregnancy.
Okay.
Because I didn't like the fact of getting fat. I didn't like my feet spreading. I didn't like my nose spreading. But the birth is something altogether different.
Okay. So when you say spreading, your feet spread, your nose spread, what do you mean by that?
Well, African American women, that's what I'm speaking of, because I don't know about any others. When you get down in those last months, your feet swell, your nose spread, and it's just not a pretty sight. So I see some people have that glow. I don't feel I ever had that glow during the pregnancies.
So I do remember I was on the WIC program, where you got like the peanut butter and eggs and cheese and all that. I'm not sure
During pregnancy?
During pregnancy, I was on the WIC program the whole time. And even after giving birth, after you were born, I was on the WIC program, and that's how I was able to get your formula. So I got your formula for free. Let's see, as far as pamphlets, I don't remember. Of course, I was seeking prenatal care. I had a very good OB doctor. Let's see. I'm trying to think. Oh wow, so long ago. I'm trying to think. What else? So I know I was on WIC. And I did the Lamaze classes, and that's about it.
What were the Lamaze classes? What did that entail? Were they free or?
Yeah, they were free, and you just went in. I can't even remember where I had them. I don't even remember. You just go in like you see on TV. You go in with a partner, and you practice breathing techniques. And actually, it helped me because I used those breathing techniques. Yes, I did. I did. I used every technique I was taught. So that helped.
Okay. So, and that was all of that, the WIC and the support, all of that, that was here in Arizona, right?
Right.
I asked friends and family, like, okay, so what was your experience? Tell me about your experience. Because they all had, like, different experiences, of course, because every person is different. So that kind of freaked me out. And like with all the possibilities of what could happen, and as far as like the hospitals and clinics go, they weren't too big on telling you what you're gonna expect, because I guess they didn't quite know. But they were really big on like, hey, I can tell you how to breastfeed or whatever the case may be. Like I can tell you what your body's gonna do, but I can't tell you like how the baby or like what's it gonna feel like, if you're gonna need any drugs. There was nothing they could tell me. Like, they were like, we do have options, but kind of depends on the situation as it goes. Like, they gave me the option of making a birthday plan, too.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't. Like, I had an idea of what I wanted to happen, but it didn't happen that way.
So you didn't make a birth plan?
I not exactly, no. Like, I had an idea, like I didn't write anything down. I was just like, okay, I'm gonna get in here, I'm gonna do this, it's gonna go like this, and I didn't want any drugs. I wanted to have my baby like natural 100%. And it was going well for me, but it didn't go well.
Yeah, that was so sad. I'm so sorry.
It was sad.
My whole thing, I wanted a water birth. That's what I want.
Okay.
I wanted all the information on water birth. I wanted everything natural. So I asked my doctors, my my prenatal care doctors about water birth. After they told me water birth was not suggested, I was just asking family members. I asked my family members about water birth as well. And they told me no. And it was just like, after that, I was just like, okay, well, I'm just going to give birth.
Everybody told you that?
Yeah.
Well, they told me no because they didn't know if it was safe. They told me, the doctors told me that they've had several drownings babies drowning. So I was upset because I wanted a water birth, but I didn't want my baby to drown.
Right.
So it was just like, I got to do it not in water.
Did they tell you anything about if you wanted one, you know, how they could accommodate you, or they just said, you know, we don't suggest it.
They just said,
we had people drown, well, not people, but babies drown, and that's that.
Yeah, they just left it at that. They was like, we don't suggest it, and that's why a lot of hospitals stopped doing the water births because you know they had the pools in the delivery room.
Yeah,
and they stopped doing it because of so many babies drowning. So I asked your mom, Auntie Marlo, my mom, like pretty much all the mothers that I knew, and they was just telling me what to expect. Oh, and this one.
Yeah.
She gave me the worst scenario. She gave me the worst case scenario baby delivery. And
It was my delivery. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And I was afraid. I was so scared. But we have two totally different birth stories.
Yeah. Actually, my best friend at the time had just had her third child.
Okay.
So I had been able to watch her through her pregnancies. I had been able to see how she parented her kids. She had some rough pregnancies though. So
oh, really?
Yeah.
Can't relate on your end.
I cannot relate, thankfully. I cannot relate to that. But yeah, I definitely watched her. I talked with my pastor's wife because they were very much mentors for me and my husband.
Okay.
She and her husband. And my mother, of course, talked with her. She was very encouraging. Also, she had been a second grade teacher most of her career. So once I had kids, she gave me good information about, you know, how to get them ready for school.
Yeah.
So that they would be able to do well when they started in kindergarten.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I did, you know, get information from my OB. You know, the thing about doctors is that it's their job to give you information about worst case scenarios.
Right.
And so I had to be careful about what I allowed to stay in my brain. Because that just really built up fear. And so I had to just, you know, stop thinking about those things whenever I had an issue. But yeah, he gave me pamphlets to bring home to read, and so my husband could read it as well.
Okay, back then things were so different. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have a lot of things. I mean, things are more open now than they were back then. People really didn't discuss stuff like that. So when you go to the clinic for prenatal care, they gave you a couple of pamphlets for you to take home and read, and that was that. Basically, you're on your own.
And so, okay, so you said something about the afterbirth. Okay, so my question is, how did you know about the afterbirth? Like that's considered information.
Because the person that I was talking to told me about the afterbirth. So I wanted to know, what do they do with it then?
Okay.
Because the way it's explained, you know, the umbilical cord is connected to the afterbirth. So when the baby is born, I want to know, what do they do with it? And she was telling me that they cut the cord, and I want to know, okay, so what happened to the cord? She said they stick it back up in you, when actually, you know, that's not true.
Right. Okay.
Well, at that time, back in 1993, 1994, I'm not even sure birthing classes existed. The only thing I knew about, and I went and experienced it for myself, was Lamaze classes. And I think that's totally different from childbirth education. Okay. So I think it's a good thing. I think it would prepare women, especially young women who give birth nowadays in the 21st century. I think it would give them an opportunity to kind of know what to expect, to kind of get their emotions ready, to get their mind and bodies ready. So I think it's a good thing.
I had breathing classes.
You did?
I didn't have any of that. I had nothing. I wanted to get into the breastfeeding, like they had a hotline where you can call if you're having problems with breastfeeding, and I didn't do it. I don't know why I didn't do it. I was stupid, because that was something I really wanted to do.
Yeah.
But I think that it would be helpful while you're pregnant, so that way you would know what to do when you go into labor.
Yeah.
And when the baby is born. So that's something that I would change. Get into those classes, especially breathing. That's key.
Yeah.
Like when you, cause them contractions and pushing and stuff.
That's the same thing my mom said. She said she went to Lamaze classes, and she said she just learned breathing techniques, and she was like, and they helped during when she was in the labor process. She said those breathing techniques helped her. So
I wish I would have did that.
The breathing techniques definitely help.
where did you like learn them from?
At the hospital.
At the hospital?
Yeah, the hospital. the doctor, it was like a specialist that came in who she basically gave me the rundown. I want to say it was like my last 2 doctor's appointments before the baby got here. So I want to say like 38, 39 weeks. I want to say I had one at 42. But we would like practice like breathing every time I would come in, and she would like talk to me more about breastfeeding. Like, so breastfeeding's a go, right? Okay, let's talk more about it. Like, she was like real adamant. Like, he would bring her in, like, this is my personal specialist that I bring in for my patients. Like, she would like we'll have like a whole session of like breathing and like positions for your body and like stuff like that. Like, it was helpful, but in my case it just kind of like was like a waste, because all of that, and like it was helpful though. The information was still helpful. Like, if it was to go that way, it would have went perfectly, but it didn't.
I think that they're great. I'm glad that I did it. And I think that any woman that has the opportunity to get that kind of help should take advantage of it.
Okay.
It was eye-opening for me, because I never knew about the breathing techniques and how that could help. As well as, how your body is positioned that can help you deal with the pain.
Right.
So yeah, I definitely endorse those.
I think it should be recommended. You can't make it mandatory because it's an individual thing, but I think it's a good thing, because back when I was having kids, I mean, you was just left in the dark. You didn't know anything. I remember my first visit, and the nurse told me, nice lady, she said, sweetheart, baby, you know how ashy our skin get, so make sure each time before you come to see the doctor, put some Vaseline on your bottom so you don't be all crusty and ashy. Doctors don't want to see that. And that was the only advice that I was given. I think the classes that they have now, teaching mothers, expectant mothers, how to breathe, I think that is helpful. But as far as what to expect during childbirth, it's kind of hard, because each baby is different. Some babies, it's like, I can't wait to get into the world. Then some babies fall asleep during childbirth. So you can't prepare a mother for the unexpected, because you don't know what to expect. Okay, for instance, like Michelle, she checks into the hospital in labor. She stays in labor over 12 hours and had to have a C-section. You can't prepare a mother for that. Faye had to have a C-section. You can't prepare a mother for, because you never know what's going to happen, because each body is different. Because if you don't dilate to a certain point, you have to have a C-section.
Now that was terrible.
Okay. What do you mean terrible?
It was long, painful, tiring. I had to have an episiotomy, so I had a tear.
Ooh.
I had to have stitches. I mean, it was just awful. That was the most awful thing.
So then, beforehand, did you have any ideas of how you would like it to go, or who you wanted there, like support, or?
No, I mean, because everybody was there. All my coworkers was there.
Who?
All my coworkers came to see me.
Okay.
Your dad was there. Both grandmothers were there. Your Auntie Beatty there. Uncle Mike was there. Everybody was there. Everybody. Okay. I mean, I had a room full of people, and I had a private room. And you took so long to come. Everybody was in the room, and then everybody left.
And then that's when
right. Then that's when you decided. Yeah. And the only person that was in the room with me at the time was my friend Vicky that I worked with. And I told her, I said, I think I'm ready to push. And it felt like I had to, because she had already had a son, Vicky. And she was in the room with me, and she said, does it feel like you have to have a bowel movement? I said, yes. She was like, let me go get the doctor. And then I think it was a student came and checked me. He was like, oh, she's ready to push. Let's break down the bed. Let's break down the bed. So then everybody came, but everybody was almost too late.
Yeah.
Because everybody left and went shopping.
Shopping?
Yes, they went to either go eat or go shopping.
What do you mean by shopping?
They went to go shop. What I said, shopping. It was a Dillard's open down there by Park Central. It was called Park Central Mall.
Okay.
And it was a Dillard's and some shopping centers, places to shop over there. It was somebody had left and went to Walgreens. I don't remember who that was, but that sticks in my mind. Yeah. And your grandma Liz was crying because I was in labor so long. And I remember looking at her like, why is she crying?
Dang.
I was like, for real?
So, in a sense, you were glad that a lot of people weren't in the room because at the time that you were ready.
Right. I think at that time I really didn't care. I was just ready to get it over with. At that time, I really didn't care. And your grandmother was getting mad at Dr. Alfano because she was like,
right.
Yeah, she was like, I don't know why he just won't give you a C-section. He should just give you a C-section. But Dr. Alfano, he really didn't like to do C-sections because it's a risk to the mother and the baby. And he was like, let's just keep her going. And she was like, I don't understand. I can remember her pacing the room back and forth. She was mad. I remember that so vividly. She was furious. I don't understand. And you have flipped. You were head down. You were face down. And then you flipped. Then you were feet first. So they had to go in there and flip you. And then during labor, you went into fetal distress.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then my blood pressure like skyrocketed. Then when you went into fetal distress, they had to go up in there and put like little probes on your little head to kind of monitor how you were doing. So it was just a mess. And I went 18 hours with no epidural.
Oh, with no
epidural.
The total time?
Total time from labor to delivery was 28 hours.
Okay, so then you got...
Because labor started the day before. I'll never forget. It was like 10 o'clock in the morning.
What were you doing?
Eating breakfast. Trying to eat breakfast.
What were you eating?
Your grandma Liz had fixed me a wonderful breakfast because she was a good cook. And I think I had eggs, and she made biscuits, and I think I had sausage or bacon, hash browns. I had a lot of food, and I was so mad that I could not finish my food because I went into labor. Started having contractions.
So Grandma Liz was with you?
Yes, and grandmother was there too. They were both there.
Oh, at the house?
Oh, at the apartments, yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And so then, I guess you didn't plan, you had no idea or how it would go or planning.
No.
So what made you decide you want an epidural?
I was in pain.
Well,
I couldn't take it no more. I was like, I cannot take it no more. And I remember the nurse, she was standing next to me on the left side. She touched me like this. She was like, baby, what took you so long? And I was like, I was just trying to do it all natural. She was like, no. And I remember at that time I could get some sleep, because before then I didn't sleep. Yeah.
And you said the nurse said that?
Yeah, the nurse said that. She was like, what took you so long? And everybody was like, finally, she gonna get an epidural. I remember when we finally, because we had made, was it 1 or 2 trips the night before to the hospital. I think it was 1, because I thought I was ready. And they sent me back home. They were like, nope, you're not ready. And then I think that was when they got more intense during the night. And then the next morning, that's when I lost my mucus plug in the toilet. Ooh. Yeah. And we went to the hospital then, like that afternoon. They sent me back home. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is just crazy. And then they were like, okay, we anticipate that you're going to come back tonight. And I did. I went back that evening. I want to say it was like 5 or 6 o'clock or something like that. And then that's when they finally kept me. And there are pain medicines they can give you, because when they first got me into the labor and delivery room, the nurse came to me. She had a needle and a bottle. And I said, wait a minute, what are you doing? And she was like, well, Dr. Alfano said you can have any medicine. I was like, no. I didn't want anything. And then I think after several hours, that's when I let them give me a shot. And at the time, I don't know if they still do give this, but at the time it was a medicine called Stadol.
Yeah, I think they do.
They still do that. Stadol. Yeah.
The RN said that.
Yeah, but oh my gosh, after a while, that wasn't doing nothing. And then that's when I said, okay, I need an epidural.
I feel like I came in expecting the best and the worst, but like I didn't expect it to be that bad. Like I didn't expect, like that was like the absolute worst that could happen. Like we're gonna lose one of you or both of you. Like that's like,
and that's what they told you?
Yeah,
really?
Yeah, they told me because of the situation. And like with him, with me, with my kidneys failing, and if I shifted to another side or anything, because we tried to like flip me over and do all types of stuff. With me shifting, the baby started losing oxygen. So his like heart rate started going all crazy. It's like, okay, like we need to hurry up. Like it's now or never. It's either we're gonna lose one of you or both of you. So there's no decision you need to make. It's happening. Like
right.
Like okay, well, I guess we're in this. Like it's just like I didn't have a choice in the matter. Like it was just like it was weird. Like I was trying really hard to bond with Zion. Like we were doing it, but then it was just like like, I would just start crying on him. Like I would just like be crying, like my tears would just be falling on the baby. I'd be like, I'm so sorry. And he'd just be looking at me like I would just be crying on his head, like I'm sorry, I'll just brush it. I used to just be crying on him all the time.
So what did you do to did you try to do anything or talk to anybody?
I tried to talk to Chris.
No.
He was like the worst around, like that between my pregnancy and like my postpartum. He was not in it like at all. He was just like like it was bad. It was real bad. Like our relationship was like meanwhile I'm over here dealing with this postpartum and my baby's just like and Zion used to get real gassy all the time. Like
a stinky booty.
Oh my god. Like the whole
Is that why you call him that?
Yes.
Yeah, he used to like blow out and everything. He used to just stress me out. Like I used to just be but I got a super high, that it's probably because of that postpartum, but my tolerance for like stuff is just like skyrocketed, because like I didn't have a tolerance for anything. Everything used to make me cry. Like cry, or I'll just be like just mad because I'm sad. Like why am I so sad? Like I just had a baby. Be happy. Your baby's here. Like you're here. Like be happy. And I used to just couldn't. Like I could not.
Right.
I had and at the hospital, at the hospital that I went to, I would have these appointments, and they used to really try to like find out if you got postpartum. But I didn't want them to think that I would hurt the baby, so like those little questionnaires, I would lie.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I would like straight up lie on them. They'd be like, "So are you feeling sad?" Or like all these like little questions.
Yeah.
I would be like, "No, I'm happy. Everything's fine. The baby and me is fine and well. My relationship at home is great. Like nothing's wrong. I'm enjoying every minute." Like nope. I used to go in there and pretend like it's no tomorrow. Like doctor come in, "So how are you?" I'm great. I'm breastfeeding. Everything's going great.
The third one, she kind of took forever, and yet I wasn't feeling a lot of pain. So by the time that I had dilated, where you get to the point beyond taking any other medication, they were just like, "Okay, you gotta go natural the rest of the way."
Yeah.
And it really wasn't that bad.
Okay. So for the first two, you did medication.
Yeah.
Okay.
I did not do an epidural.
Okay.
Just the thought of getting stuck in my back scared me too much.
Yeah.
But I did take other medication.
Okay.
That, kind of eased. It kind of took the real high pain off a bit. But I never expected that I would go naturally. Now, I didn't really want to do like using midwife or being in the water.
Yeah.
No, I just I just needed the standard hospital.
Yeah.
Give me the nurses and the doctors and give me a room and let's do it the normal way.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I really didn't want to explore those other options.
That's the beauty of the pregnancy. When you're not having a C-section, they have this, you in the stirrups, and they have this huge mirror where you can see.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And it is so, to me, that's one of the most beautiful thing in the world, is to see a life burst forward. And it start off, it looks really peculiar, because when the vaginal opens, you see just a little black ball. And if you never had a baby, you'd be like, what is that? But that's the baby's head, and that little black ball is the hair. And gradually it just, it is so beautiful. And at that particular time, you can't help but cry, because it's really tears of joy to see a life, just because it actually bursts forward.
And so they had mirrors for you to see.
Yeah, if you don't have a C-section, there's a huge mirror, and you can, and you can see the baby coming out.
Okay.
And back then, I don't know whether I'm getting ahead. It was natural childbirth all the way.
Yeah.
You didn't get no medicine, no pills, no injections. It was just natural childbirth.
How did the labor progress with each one?
With your mom?
Yeah, was she the most difficult?
Yes.
Yeah.
She was the most difficult. It was just so painful. I didn't think I could bear it. And during one course, I told the nurse, because they had a nurse sitting beside my bed. And I told the nurse, I'm like, "Nurse, my water broke." And she raised the cover up and looked, "Well, so it did." And she just kept reading. And I was hurting so bad. So I looked at the hospital window. It had bars to the window. That was the only thing kept me from jumping out. It hurt just that bad. And so...
And you were serious? You were gonna jump?
Was I serious? Yeah.
You were gonna jump?
I was hurting just that bad. I wanted to end it. Yeah. I was in labor over 12 hours. And she was such a small baby. 5 3/4 of a pound. And it was terrible. And then, they have to cut you.
Oh, episiotomy.
Yeah, yeah. So it was really bad. The second one was easier.
Okay. Was that at a hospital also?
As a matter of fact, the second one, I wasn't in labor for a long time, and it was easier. And when I talked to the doctors regarding it, they explained that the smaller the baby is, the harder the labor, because when the babies are small, they're not that strong. So you have to do all the work. When the babies are big babies, they're stronger, they can help you. So that's why the first one was so painful. But it got easier after that. Now the third one was so easy. That was because that baby was almost 9 pounds. That baby was born at home. And the reason the baby was born at home is because we wasn't expecting him. So everybody was at work and I was at home with Nanny and Grandma. And I went to the bathroom and my water broke. And I'm like, "Ooh, my water broke." And they was like, "What?" And then I started to having contractions. So Nanny called 911. And they told her, "Well, we're sorry. We can't get anyone out there because there was a fight at the school and all the units over there." So he was like, "Well, why don't you call the midwives?" It was a place called Newberry Clinic. And they had midwives that would come out to the house to deliver the baby. But before the midwife got there, the police came. But by the time the police got there, it was too late. So I'm in the bed, and I got my clothes pulled up, my legs propped up, and 2 police officers walk in my bedroom. And one of them, and I grabbed the covers to cover myself out of embarrassment. And he was like, "Oh, don't mind me, baby." He said, "I done delivered so many babies. Don't worry about me." And my grandmother got up in the bed on her knees, and she would grip my hand, and she held it. And each time I had a contraction, she said she could feel the pain all the way up to her elbows. So the baby was coming. The head was coming forth. The midwife walked in the door. So Grandma jumped out the bed and let them take over. And that was Uncle Chris. And at the time Uncle Chris was born, Uncle Jay was a year old. He was 13 months old. He was actually sitting in the door of the bedroom that Uncle Chris was born in. And that was an easy birth. I didn't get a chance to see that one, but it was easy.
I think breastfeeding is good for the baby. I think from what I've read and from what I know about it,
From
and
what you
even
know
back
about it
then,
now?
no, even back then, it's good for the baby to develop their immunities from the mother. But if the mother is not going to eat healthy and eat properly, then it's not going to benefit the baby. So I think it's a good thing if the baby can breastfeed and develop their immunities from the mom. But unfortunately, like you gave me a hard time during labor, you did not breastfeed at all. At all. Nothing. I tried it in the hospital. I tried it at home. Nothing. You just wasn't having it. And I was so disappointed. I remember I cried. Because I didn't even, when I went baby shopping for you, when grandmother first came out here, she was like, "Where your bottles at?" I said, "I ain't gonna buy no bottles. I ain't gonna need none." She was like, "Huh?" I said, "I'm gonna breastfeed." She was like, "You need to buy some bottles." And I was like, and she was like, "I'm telling you, just go buy some bottles just in case she don't." And you didn't. Never.
So that was one of my main things. I wanted to breastfeed, natural birth, water birth. Okay.
Yeah.
I knew the things about formula. It's not, well, what I know is not 100% good for the baby, and of course breastfeeding is 100% natural. So I wanted to breastfeed. I knew I wanted to breastfeed, but I was not producing milk. No, it wasn't that I wasn't producing milk. Jasmine wouldn't latch on the right way, and my nipples would be so sore, and my nipples used to bleed.
Dang.
Yeah. So she couldn't latch on, and when I would pump, I wouldn't pump enough because, you know, as I said, she was greedy. She drank a lot, and I didn't produce as much. And when I went to the doctor, they said, yeah, just you make sure that you pump and make sure that you know that she is latching on correctly. She wouldn't latch right. She just wouldn't.
I did a lot of research. Well, the hospital I work with, they were really into like breastfeeding. They were like, please breastfeed. Just in case, like, okay, there's options for formula, but we really, really, really encourage you to breastfeed.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay if you smoke cigarettes. Yeah, they were like, it's okay if you smoke cigarettes, you know, just, it's not going to affect the baby because the breast milk is stronger than whatever. Like, they were like gun-ho, like, they were like really on it. Yeah, they were like, if you keep a good diet and like, you know, you're not like doing hard drugs, like, people smoke cigarettes and like have babies at the same time. Like, they be smoking while having the baby. So, like, not in the hospital, of course.
Oh, I thought I was like,
you know, at home births, they be like with the.
This is not 1957.
Yeah, like like people do it all the time apparently. But the hospital provided me with a pump for at home.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
The hospital, they were like really good on like providing me with material, and then of course I was like, I'm like a Pinterest queen.
Yeah,
so I'm like, what are
social
some
media?
Like I'm asking people on social media like, hey, how many of you guys breastfeed, or like, you know, what do y'all do? How do you produce milk and all this other stuff? I started like trying to practice with the pump before the baby even got here.
Yeah.
Like I was on like my last week, like the 40th week, and I'm like with the pump. I'm like, okay, just trying to get my boob right. I'm like, all right, I think it goes like this, and like nothing came out. Like it was like a little bit like of like, it's weird. It's like this really, really, really thick milk, and it was
colostrum.
Like, yes, yeah. It was like this much. I'm like, okay, we got something. So I was like super excited.
a little something.
Yeah, I was like super
little
excited. Then I had the baby and nothing came out. Like I could not breastfeed. Like we were in the hospital for like a week, me and Zion. But I want to say I got out in 4 days, and then he spent the rest of the week. So in those 4 days, like the first 2 days, nothing. Like, and I was just pumping like crazy. Like I would just be laying there pumping, like, all day long. I would be like, something's gotta happen. Nothing would happen. And then one day, I went in there to see him, and this woman came. She's like explaining all the breast pump parts to me, and she like had like little attachments, like little covers you can put over it so that if the baby doesn't know how to latch, you can just like figure out a way, like a bottle. But Zion, the greedy gut self, when I finally like got him to it, like, okay, I'm comfortable, let's try, let's see if anything comes out. He latched on, and then after that, it was just like breast milk for days. Like,
damn.
Really?
Yeah, like when he latched on, like it wasn't no more, like he latched on good. And then that one time after that, I was pumping, and I was pumping like 8-ounce bottles like at a time, like 8-ounce bottles, like both breasts. Like he's not drinking that much. He's only drinking like this much milk. Like he's only drinking like 2 ounces. I was like just producing, like soaking through shirts. Them little pads was just soaked through. Like I was just like, so it was the worst. Like I hear
the worst.
It was the worst. Like I would pump,
and I wish I had that.
I would pump, and like releasing that milk, after you release it, you get real hungry. I don't know what it is, but I would be eating it. It'd be like 5 minutes later, and then my shirt soaked through. Like I would have to change shirts like crazy. It'd be like just soaked through, like ruining bras left and right. I can't be out if I hear anything that remotely sounds like a baby.
Right, because that'll trigger it. Yeah.
Oh my God, it was shooting out like 1 ounce per boob a day. Like it didn't matter how many times I pumped, like, or tried to get him to latch on. Like he would be pulling nothing. Like, be like, "Hey, well, you need to eat, huh?" Like, it was rough, Bianca. It was
Yeah.
rough. Like,
Yeah.
it was rough.
Oh, okay. I wanted to breastfeed, so I looked up the La Leche League
Yeah.
before delivery, and tried to get as much information as I could. And thankfully, the hospital, and I'm sure all hospitals provide this service. The hospital had a nurse that would come in and show you how to make sure the baby latches on properly,
Right.
and really help you kind of calm your fears about how to do all of that. So yeah, I breastfed, and that was something that I really wanted to do for my kids, because I know that that's better than formula in terms of passing on a lot more of the antibodies that help them fight disease and all that. Plus, it's such a great time to cuddle with your baby. And, you know, I have told other people, other ladies, that in their pregnancies, you know, they start complaining about, well, I can't do this anymore. I got to do this now. And I'm like, you know, you got a lifetime of making sacrifices for your kids, so you may as well start now.
Right.
And that's kind of how, you know, I had to look at breastfeeding as well, because it hurts at the very beginning until your skin gets used to that. And, but I knew that that was what I wanted to provide for my kids. And so I just had to suck it up and, you know, allow that whole process to happen. But yeah, I definitely wanted to breastfeed. And then they went on to formula at varying stages. I think the soonest one of them went to formula was at 6 months. I breastfed one of them for an entire year.
Okay.
But you know, that was something that I felt that I just needed to provide for my kids.
So you said you looked up the La Leche League. So how did you come across the La Leche League, or how did you know about them?
Well, at the time there was no internet.
Right.
So I got the information from my doctor, and then they used to have group meetings so that you could go and hear somebody speak about, you know, proper methods of breastfeeding and how to deal with any problems, especially like raw nipples, or, you know, if the baby's not latching on properly. So it was just through the doctor's office that I got that information. Then I went and I attended a few of those group meetings.
Oh, okay.
That was helpful.
Yeah.
But I also did not want to be one of those moms that breastfed for like 2.5 years.
Yeah.
So, and so that was really good for me to go to that meeting, because there were women there with kids that were hopped up in their lap. And,
Right.
you know, we're almost 3 years old, still wanting to breastfeed. So I knew, no, that is not for me.
Yeah. So you saw. So that's okay. So at the meetings there were, you know, other women also there. Okay. So do you remember what the demographics look like in terms of?
Well, we're in Arizona, so they were all white.
Yeah. Okay.
I tried breastfeeding with your mom. It hurt too bad. So since all three of my kids were raised on formula, I mean, I don't have a problem with it. Back then, they took babies off formula when they was 9 months old.
Wow.
And put them on whole milk.
Okay.
So for 9 months, I didn't have a problem with it. I don't like the fact that when babies are overweight and they keep them on formula now until they get a year old. So I had no problem with it, because with the breastfeeding, I mean, you have to make sure that you eat right. You have to do everything right, because this is, you know, for your baby. So I prefer formula myself.
so many resources and so much newly researched, information now that it should probably be, how should I say it? It shouldn't be, excuse me, it shouldn't be that difficult for, black mothers to obtain the information. I mean, that's kind of saddening that it's prevalent in the African American community. Maybe it's because there's a lot of young black single mothers, I mean, or teenagers that are having babies. But I would say, somebody having a baby like age 25, 26, or 30 these days, it will probably be more I don't want to say beneficial, but it would probably be, what's the word I want to use? More attainable versus a 17-year-old, unless that 17-year-old that's pregnant has a mother or has an adult that's going to help them obtain those resources, if that makes sense. I don't know if that really answers the question, but that's how I'm understanding it. So
you're thinking about it from a resource standpoint.
Yeah.
So thinking about
and obtaining that information and those resources, to prevent some of those SIDS and different kind of things to like do or to take care of yourself to help your baby develop while you're carrying your baby.
I'm not surprised. I mean, people would think I'm crazy of saying this. Yeah, I probably would understand, but that's probably the plan of the government anyway. Like, to keep us misinformed, I'm not going to say to make sure that we don't have healthy babies, but, I mean, we're considered a minority, and of course they wouldn't educate us, or they would brush our wants to the side, or, just... I don't want to get too deep into it, but I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised.
I'm shocked. Like, I'm shocked at the statistics, because even with us being a minority, there's plenty of minorities. Like, everybody's a minority that's not Caucasian. So, you would think that they would be right alongside with us.
Right.
Like, we would all be right here with it. Like, oh, you don't know either, huh? But the fact that black women are top case scenarios of death in labor or disformities or anything like that, that's not cool.
I know that a lot of black women don't have access. They don't necessarily know what they don't know because they haven't had any role models. Sometimes there are women that grow up never having seen another family member being pregnant. So they don't know that they need to get to a doctor, before they're 4 months pregnant. Just to be able to have the access to those services that sometimes is not available in our inner cities. And it's really shameful that it's not. I do think that our schools could participate in helping our young women to know what it is to be pregnant, to be a good mom, and not necessarily from the standpoint of establishing a moral base for them, but just information about the female anatomy and what happens, and why it's important to get the medical services that they.
When I hear you say that, I think of prenatal care. And I think that's where the problem lies. Because poverty causes women in our communities not to get the prenatal care that they need. And then I also feel that sometimes in our community, young African American women, when you get pregnant at a young age, you really don't understand what's going on. And I don't think you understand how crucial that prenatal care is to you and your child. There are some people, especially young people, when they go into a doctor's office, they don't ask questions. They don't know what questions to ask. So I feel in our community, age, lack of communication, poverty has a lot to do with that ratio that you were just referring to.
All right, well then that's it. Thank you.
My comment is, don't you try it no time soon.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Take your time.
Okay.
Educate yourself. And most of all, know your body. Do you know what I mean by that? Know your body. Like, I know my body. Know who you are. Know your body.